What up, it's your boy, Will Nichols, and today we're talking about the 3 myths surrounding Geminis. Oh yeah, this one's for you, Gemini. They talk a lot. Uh, and I mean, all air signs talk a lot, okay? But again, it depends on your Mercury placement, and it also depends on, how aspected your Mercury and your Sun is, as well as your rising sign. Because your ascendant essentially depends on, your interaction with the public or your outer skin of your zodiac sign. In general, Geminis can tend to talk a lot, but a lot of Geminis I know that don't have Mercury dominant or don't have like very active Gemini placements or other air sign placements, they're really big thinkers. So that's where all that mental energy goes. Geminis rule the mind and communication. So they are really great communicators, but a lot of times what happens is all that communication doesn't come out of them, it gets stuck inside of them. So if you're a Gemini, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you're overthinking about the entire situation. You're thinking about how does someone perceive me, how are people looking at me, and then you're also thinking about the 900 million different scenarios and different potentials of things that could happen or things that may have already happened, but you're still replaying them in your head. So Geminis are super big thinkers, not necessarily talkers. However, they do rule communication and they can be great communicators. They aren't good at relationships. And this is interesting because it's not necessarily a myth. It just depends on how conscious and how kind of fully stepped into you are when it comes to your zodiac archetype. So, like I said in the previous video on Scorpios, it depends on our level of consciousness and how we're totally owning our dominant archetypes. Now, an unconscious Gemini can be pretty bad at relationships because their communication is not fully expressed. They're in the mind and they're just overthinking about their partner, about, how that's all happening. Venus and Mars in Gemini as well. This is a placement that if you don't have proper communication and you're not able to properly communicate your feelings and expression, then you can feel like relationships just aren't working for you, or the people on the other side of the party, if that's you having those placements, they can feel like you're just kind of bouncing from person to person, or you just really have no real interest. Now, Geminis can actually be really great in relationships. It just depends on your definition of what a great relationship is. If your definition of a great relationship is having lots of fun, always being mentally and intellectually stimulated, always looking for new adventures, new momentum, new movement, and you're always ready to be on the go and, creating with your partner, then Geminis are fantastic at relationships. But if your idea of a relationship is like, let's be together forever kind of shit, I mean, again, it depends on their moon placement, it depends on Venus and Mars, and also depends on your Mercury because your Mercury rules communication. So it's very relative in that aspect, but an unconscious Gemini won't be that great at relationships because, one, they don't know what they want because they're always thinking about, oh, maybe I could have this, and I can have this, and I can have this, and I can have this, and their mind's just going non-stop. And at the same time, all of that energy is being brought inward as opposed to expressed outward, which a partner can find really frustrating. So if you are a Gemini listening to this, or you've had Gemini partners, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where all that mental energy, you could feel that they're thinking, you could feel that they're, feeling feelings, or they like you, but you're just not, you're like, why aren't you expressing that? Why aren't you actually letting me know that? And that can be really frustrating for both parties. Geminis need to express yourself. If you don't know what you want as a Gemini, if you don't know how to express yourself as a Gemini, and you're not actively working on that, it's going to severely affect your relationships. But if you are continually working on that, if you are continually, working on communication, working on clarifying your thoughts, getting really present with your thoughts so that they come out of your mind as opposed to just get jumbled up in here, then relationships can be a lot of fun. Okay, I'm an Aries, so I get along with Geminis very well, and Gemini aspects as well. So Geminis are a ton of fun, just like I am, obviously. and yeah, they are good at relationships, but they have to love what they're doing. You have to stimulate them at all times, by the way. That's another thing that I want to talk about too. Geminis need to be stimulated mentally, intellectually, okay, communicatively. You need to always be really intriguing them with either new facts, new information, new adventures, new momentum. They're always looking for the next step. All mutable signs are like that. It just depends on the element and how that's expressed. So Pisces are like that, but they're more in the emotional realms, whereas Sagittarius are like that, but they're very much more in the kind of spiritual as well as the physical adventure, like let's go traveling, let's go do things, right? So take that into consideration. before you say that Geminis are bad at relationships. Number 3, they're unable to commit. And I hear this one a lot. And I actually hear this one from Gemini, so this is kind of not really another myth. It just depends on your consciousness. So yes, like I kind of was just saying with number 2, how they aren't good at relationships, and they can be. Again, it depends on where you're at specifically as a Gemini, or as a Gemini dominant, or wherever that Gemini placement is within your chart. How actively are you working towards clarifying your intent, and clarifying your mind, and clarifying your communication? That is the most important aspect, because once you have communication down, you know exactly what you want, and you're able to commit to it with ease. The issue with Geminis, and that a lot of Geminis face, and that a lot of people dealing with Geminis experience, is that Geminis don't really know what they want. A lot of air signs, period, don't know what they want, because they're always thinking about the million alternatives that are out there. So it's really hard for them to be present and satisfied in this moment. And because of that, if you're not present and satisfied in this moment, you can really kind of worry about, oh, maybe I'll be present and satisfied in another moment outside of now. And then you can go searching and, you know, looking for other people to satisfy you in that regard. And that's what happens with a lot of Geminis, is they'll kind of go through periods of, you know, maybe just dating a lot of people and just experimenting and having, you know, fun, because that's getting them intellectually stimulated. But at the end of the day, they don't feel satisfied, and they're actually using that as an escape mechanism to leave this present moment. So if you notice that that's you, then take the time to really tune into yourself, figure out what you desire, what pleases you, what do you need in a relationship, and don't think about the traditional taboos, because Geminis are mutable signs, and they're not one to be fixed in this mindset. And it's okay to consistently be updating and changing the things that you desire, the things that you want. And that's the issue, is that especially if you're a fixed sign and you're someone that's used to things being a certain way, when a mutable sign comes along, or a Gemini, or a Pisces, or a Sagittarius, or Virgo, they all come along and they're just like, I want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And then, you know, the fixed sign's like, what the f***? You know, what? Oh my gosh. How dare you? How dare you change your mind? How dare you like new things? How dare you try new things? So, you know, and when you don't know what you want, you tend to attract those kind of people. So really be mindful of that, Gemini and Gemini aspects, and also the people that are dealing with, if you have a Gemini partner, if you are dating a Gemini, or you're married to a Gemini, or you've just had Gemini partners in the past, and you can kind of relate that to it now. So Geminis are able to commit, but again, you have to stimulate them, you have to really get them excited in every moment, and every moment's an adventure. And if it's not an adventure, they get bored. And that's the issue, is that if you're bored as a Gemini, you're going to find something else that's going to stimulate you, period. That's it. And that worries a lot of people, but it shouldn't worry you, because you should always be following your highest excitement. And that is what Gemini really teaches us. Button and click subscribe so you're notified every time I post a video, which is every Wednesday and Saturday. So I'm super excited for all the new content that's about to come, and let me know below what you'd like to see next, and also your thoughts on Geminis. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, especially if you are a Gemini watching this, and let me know if you resonated with it. Until next time, stay woke, stay elevated, and keep y'all third eye wide, baby. Love you.